of respect between both of us with me and Ric Flair. And there were some moments, of course, a lot of folks don't know, one of our famous matches was like 9 a.m. in the morning in that cold studio in Atlanta. And Flair kind of sometimes, he had to fly out. He's world champ, wrestling 365 days a year. And a lot of times he didn't want to work. He wanted to do an interview.
I don't associate this town with one hard match. I associate with a lot of hard, long nights. God, it was hard catching a plane out of here.
A lot of times he'd say, well, give me George South. I've never been so blowed up in my life. I mean, you get in there with Ric Flair. I remember we went to 2 commercial breaks, and I thought, finally, he'll let me breathe. But they went to a commercial, and it's like he kicked it in overgear during a commercial. And you can just hang on, because I think people even now don't even realize how great of shape, he was in. A lot of people don't forget that he broke his back twice, in that famous plane crash. So for him to be able to still take all those bumps, I mean, he wrote about me in his book about some of the matches we had. So that's, you can't replace that with money. To me, everybody says Ric Flair needs to retire. And I get mad because, to me, that's my last connection to the way wrestling used to be. It really is. And I always ask him, what do you think Rick should be doing? Working at Walmart? I mean, come on. There is a place for Ric Flair in pro wrestling. I still believe that.
I wrestled Flair a couple times down in Florida.
Battle of the Belts 3, I think.
And quite ineptly, but I mean, he carried me through.
Right.
And Rick really took a liking to me. And Rick, I have nothing but the utmost respect for. He's a great guy, and he was a real supporter of me, and always talked well of me, and always has to this day. And we still get along great. And Rick. Rick put out the word really for me for my entry into NWA wrestling with Crockett's, and that's why I went there, and I had no idea what a big deal the Horseman thing was at the time. It wasn't a lack of appreciation. I just didn't know that they were the deal.
You were working in the NWA as Rick Harris. Like in April of '81, for instance, you have a match against Ric Flair on TV before he won his first NWA title.
It was a big deal to me because I was still, I guess I was still a, I don't want to call myself a mark. It was a big deal to me because I was getting it. They thought enough of me to put me against Ric Flair. And we knew, all the guys in the territory knew, that this was a guy that was being polished to be our world heavyweight champion. This is the guy that they're putting all the TV time in. They're putting all the 8x10 picture sales, the T-shirts, the hats, the all that wrestling figures, and that's where it's all going. We didn't realize it was going to blow up like it did, but we knew, and it was an honor for me for the powers to be, which was Jim Crockett Jr. and his sister and his one brother. Jackie was the black sheep of the family. He was a camera operator. That's what he done. But he still got his cut of the office. That was the NWA back then, but and Miss Crockett was still alive too, but it was such an honor to and then to get in the ring and have a good match with him and see it. I said, dang, maybe I have got a little bit of potential. If I can have a match with him, I might be able to have a match with anybody, and pretty much I could. But it was a great honor to get in the ring with Flair like that. But and as time goes on, there's certain things. As time goes on, things change, and I started getting pushed, and Ric Flair went on, and he was 14-time world heavyweight champion, and that's like you want to puke. But the thing about Flair is this, and I'm going to go ahead and get this dig in right now, is Flair, and I you probably got questions about this. Flair is one of the reasons that I had to leave WCW as soon as I did.
In the 90s when
in the 90s, after it was before Big Train Bart, but it was I'm trying to think of something. It was, I don't know exact date, but it was like about 8 years before Big Train Bart, when you seen Big Train Bart doing jobs back on Atlanta TV. Anyway, we'd done the Desperado gimmick, me and Randy Colley, and I want to get this in. And one reason I wanted to bring this up is I thought Randy Colley had died, okay, like 10 years ago, but it weren't so. I was on Facebook and I looked down there and they say they're taking. It was like on December the 14th. Yeah. This is December the 29th. They said, I think it's his son was writing this or some, said they're rolling Daddy in right now to take his leg off. And I said, man, I thought Randy was dead. I thought he was dead. I thought he was gone. I want to get this in for Randy. And then on the 23rd or 24th, I go over there on my site, and it says he's talking about his daddy again, and it says his daddy died. Randy Colley died, and I just, I said, I wanted to talk to him. I wanted to speak with Randy, but I missed it again, I loved Randy with all my heart. But anyway, he was Dead-Eye Dick in the Desperados. Dutch Mantell was the other guy, and we go out and we're looking for Stan Hansen. That's just a gimmick, okay? Stan Hansen didn't have nothing to do with none of it, other than he said we could use his name because me and Stan was pretty good friends. But he said, anyway, it was aired on TBS 90 minutes, and then it was supposed to be sold to Fox Network, which Fox Network at the time was just starting. They was just getting rolling, brother, and now now they're huge. But it was supposed to be sold as a sitcom to Fox Network. Well, Ric Flair, my good friend, Ric Flair, goes to Ted Turner and tells Ted, you give those three jabronis all that TV time, and you give your world champion none. We were supposed to sign contracts with them. They didn't sign their contract. They was mad about the money. They offered them very little money. It was good money to me. Okay, so I'm staying. I done got my 20 years up there. I'm not going nowhere, brother. I'm saying right here, okay, if it's $80,000, if it's $100,000 a year, whatever it is, I'll sign it. Here I am. I'm not going nowhere. Yeah. Well, shortly, the deal with for me to come home come up, and not. That's another story. But Ric Flair slit old Bart's throat, and I forgive him, but I ain't forgot about it. And I'll never forget it.
The deal got axed because he
went to Ted Turner, told Ted Turner to take us off the air, or he was walking, pretty much.
Was your relationship good with him up to that point?
Up to that point, yeah. Business, when it comes to business and wrestling, there's no friends, brother. That's what you got to understand. There's no friends in the wrestling business. It's how deep can I stick it in you, or how deep are you going to stick it into me? And then when it comes my turn, how hard am I going to twist it, or how hard am I going to pound you? And that's the way it was. And we accepted that. I accepted that. I understood. But what got me is he never lost any TV time because of us. He had TBS was one of the first 2 or 3 hour program, 2 hour program, I think. It was unheard of. He always had at least 30-minute segment was for Ric Flair, and everybody else got 5, 6 minutes, 4 minutes as it sprinkled down. But I love Flair, and he probably is one of the greatest talkers in the business. But then again, I rate myself way up here, not very far from it. And they said, Bart, you can't put your name in the same name with Ric Flair. The hell I can't. I was world heavyweight champion too. You know, I was world tag team champions and all over the world. For it don't matter how good you are. It's how many people do you got to step on to get up that ladder. You don't have to step on none. And I'm living proof. You don't have to step on nobody. You don't have to hurt nobody, because you can do it right. If you do it right, when you get up there, and even on the way, and it's always said, the people going up that ladder that you step on are the same people when you're coming down that dadgum ladder. Them the same people you're gonna meet. I love him to death, but you can't put these over your friends. You can't put these. Okay, we went back when you toted these in your bags. All it meant to us was it tore our bags up, and that's terrible. That's terrible, because this is prestigious. This is what all the guys worked their butts off to have and to hold and to say I was a world heavyweight champion in anything. It means now at the football games, they got them on the sidelines passing them from guy to guy to guy. And it's kind of like, what happened? These used to mean something. Nah, brother, they have no meaning. They have no meaning to me. Flair, working with Flair at that time you're talking about, It was a great, great honor. And anytime Flair's around, I'll tell him straight to his face, and I'll hug his neck, and I'll give him a big old kiss right on the mouth. Mm-hmm. I love him to death. Okay, he is my working companion. He's my friend, because I still remember what my friend done to me when he didn't have to do that.
So now we're getting 1976. I went back to Florida, and I went in as a babyface this time, and I was Dusty's partner a couple of times. And I was pretty happy. Doing $1,500 a week in Florida at that time was real good money. A lot of girls, a lot of parties, working every night. It was a lot of fun. But it's around this time that my dad had a plane crash with the one with Flair and everybody was in, and I was 76, and my dad was virtually crippled from the waist down. His career was over, and the pilot died, and Flair continued to go on, because Flair never always told everybody he had a broken back, but he never broke his back.
How high up was that plane when it actually crashed? What was the story behind the plane crash?
Well, they were going to Wilmington, North Carolina, and they used to do a lot of charter flights so they could get home that night instead of having to stay over there. So they flew from Charlotte to Wilmington. The story about it was the thing ran out of gas. So they tried to switch over to reserve. My dad was up in front with the pilot and said he could smell gas. There was still gas in the plane, but he couldn't get the engines restarted. And it landed short of the runway. But the bad part about it is it ran into a railroad embankment crosswise, and it just come to a screeching halt. All the chairs in the Cessna, all the seats and everything came loose, came forward, hit my dad and the pilot in the back. Pilot went through the window, and my father broke both his hands hanging onto it, but he broke his back in like 4 different places. Really brutal. And so that's what happened there. So I'm in Florida while this was happening, and I guess another year goes by, but they kept calling me, and I really didn't want to leave Florida. I liked it, but they said, "Hey man, what are you making down there?" I said, $1,000, $1,500 a week. I said, "Well, you can triple that if you come up here. I'll put you right in here. I'll make you Flair's partner and everything like that." So I finally went in there in September of '76 into the Mid-Atlantic.
What were your early impressions of Ric Flair?
I liked him. I was quiet. He was noisy and wild. So it kind of, he was a lot of fun.
Right. I guess you teamed with Rick in, I guess it was late '76 for your first major title win over the Andersons.
Right.
What are your memories of those matches with the Andersons?
I was pretty much, I was still a little bit green when I went in there. I'd been wrestling 5-6 years, but I really hadn't had a whole lot of polish. And Rick was kind of the same way, but the Andersons were an old, established team, and they more or less showed us the ropes. So we learned a lot from those guys. And I remember hard matches with my tongue hanging out to my knees and going long matches, 2 out of 3 falls, almost an hour every night or close to it. And they made us earn every dollar that we made and earn the belts. And by the time we had the belts, we were a hell of a team.
Who else did you guys work with down there?
We worked against the not Youngbloods, but Steamboat and Youngblood,
Right.
which was awesome team. Worked against Orndorff and somebody. I can't remember the other person.
Snuka?
Could have been, yeah. Orndorff and Snuka probably was. But it was mainly the Andersons. Almost the Andersons all the time.
Did you enjoy?
Wahoo and somebody would Wahoo in like a Mr. Wrestling 2 or something. And they threw all kinds of different tag teams at us.
Did you enjoy working with Rick as a tag team partner, or would you rather work against him? You had some great matches with him back then.
I enjoyed being his partner at that time. His style was different than mine, and so instead of clashing, it was good because he would come in, do all the wild, crazy bumps. I would come in and more or less wrestle and settle it down. And so they said we were a great combination. And I look back at some of the old tapes, and I could see why they said that. We were a good team. It was very enjoyable.
Did you see Rick as being a huge star in the future?
Well, he was a pretty darn big star there. He was the hottest heel right there. And me being put with him, kind of like almost, I was like the number 2 or 3 heel there. And got a lot of jealousy from other heels in there, like Blackjack Mulligan and different people that I remember, mainly Jack, because Jack was the other big heel, but he realized I was getting a lot of heat just being Rick's partner. Everybody wanted to be Rick's partner because Rick had the biggest mouth, and he'd talk about his Cadillacs and his diamond rings and all the girls he had, and he did that constantly on the interview, and he got lots and lots of heat, so I was there with him.
Right.
Didn't do an interview like that. My interview was more solid and stuck to wrestling because I didn't want to be his copycat, but got a lot of jealousy just for being his partner because I got moved in with the mix and made some good money.
Now, at one point, you guys eventually turned on each other. I remember the angle you guys did where you guys ripped each other's suits apart. What are your memories of that?
Actually, okay, let me think.
I think you were with Gene Anderson at the time, too. And,
yeah, okay. Let me go back a little bit before that. Flair and myself, probably tag team partners 77, 76, 77, 78. Almost 3 years we had those belts off and on, back and forth against Wahoo and Youngblood or Wahoo and Steamboat, the Andersons, back and forth, and eventually dropped into the Andersons. And George Scott, who was the booker at the time, came up to me and he says, I think you need to get out of here for a while. And I go, me? I'm shit, I'm doing great here. Why do I want to leave? Well, I just need to get you out of here for a while. I got a good deal for you. I said, what's that? Vince McMahon in New York. I've been talking to him, and I want to send you up there, and you stay for a while, and then you can come back. So I said, great. So I went there, and McMahon actually was the one who gave me the figure 4 leg lock in '79. I'm talking about the old fella.
Right.
Senior. And he had me breaking guys' legs, and they were carried out on a stretcher every week. Eventually I worked with Strombo, broke his leg, and it was a real good run for me for about a year. Worked at Backlund, worked with, actually drew more money with Strombo than I did Backlund, because Strombo, the people really believed that figure four thing, and when he was carried, that they actually backed an ambulance up there into the ring and carried him out. So it was done real well. And for like 6-8 months, I worked at Backlund and Morales, and there was no mention of Chief, and all of a sudden Chief came back, and then we did real well. But eventually, you know, the time was to leave there because they kind of like fed heels to the baby faces. So I went back to the Carolinas in '81, and so I came in as a heel still. Flair had turned babyface, so I was gone. So Flair's working with Snook all over the place, and nothing against Snook or Flair, but maybe the people were tired of watching it and wasn't drawing what it was. And I kept telling George, I said, George, you're missing the boat. I used to be with Flair. I used to be his partner. I'm heel, he's baby. I said, you know, let's do something. So we came up with an idea where I would come up to Flair on TV, and he needed a partner to go against the Andersons or somebody, I think it was the Andersons. Needed a partner, and so I'm a heel, he's a babyface. I walked up on TV and shook his hand and said, I'll be your partner. So we set that up for a couple months. And then the Greensboro Coliseum to come out, I'm Flair's partner against, I think Gene had a cane back then, so it was,
Yeah, he did.
I think it was Ole and Mulligan that we were wrestling. And it was me and Flair against Ole and Mulligan. And that's when I started short. Flair got the juice and he's bleeding. He was trying to tag me, and that's where I wouldn't tag. And boy, the heat was just tremendous. And finally, I came in, they threw me the cane, and they held Flair, and it was a hickory cane of all things to give me, because that son bitch would not break. And the Anderson and Mulligan, they're holding like this, and I come with the cane, and then Flair had blood all over him. So when I hit him right here, it didn't break. It just slid down and hit the bridge of his nose, and it didn't break. The cane didn't break. So Gene is yelling from the outside, break it. You got to break that cane. You got to break it. So now I'm coming again. This time Flair's already like, he's trying to get away. I come with a thing and hit his nose, broke his fucking nose, for real, and busted his lips open. Blood was flying everywhere. And I go, oh my God, I got the fuck out of there, you know. Went back to the dressing room, felt like teetotal shit because I hurt my buddy. And of course, Flair, he didn't give a shit. He was just glad. You know, he had a fracture. It was a hairline break. Got some stitches in his lips, and he didn't care. He just said, shit, we're going to draw some money. And we did. It was big time because he went to the hospital, and it was a shoot, so the people knew that was for real. And we did real good.
Early memories of the Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
Oh, man. You know, it goes back to when I was setting up the rings and then when I was refereeing his match. And I remember, I think he was the first one to ever really jump down my throat and scream at me. And I was just like, oh my God, man, did I screw up? You know, I mean, I fucked up huge in this match.
For the finish, or?
Yes, and it was the big finish too in Miami, a sold-out crowd, him against Rufus R. Jones. And it was amazing. He just told me what to do. I did it, and he told me to count to 30. So all I was thinking about was count to 30, that's it, you know, and just, you know, don't worry about it, just count to 30 and it'll be cool. And I counted 30, and they must have done the finish 3 times. By the time I counted to 30, and they're screaming at me, get the fuck up, you fucking idiot. And that's all I can remember, them saying that. And now they got me so scared I don't want to get up. Right. So anyway, I mean, when he took me in the back, he screamed at me in front of all the boys, man, and I was just like, oh my God, man, I was so embarrassed. And I mean, he had me in tears. He was just screaming at me so hard, and I was like, oh God, man, I screwed up again. You know, So, I mean, but he was, I mean, the greatest. I mean, he taught me to understand the finishes then. After he screamed at me and everything, we rode back together. We ride together all the time. And he would say, Pat, man, he goes, this is what happened. He goes, when you hear a finish, he goes, you just hear it. You don't understand it. You need to understand what a finish is, how to do the finish, and why we do it this way. He goes, you're just counting, and that was it. And you get up and you start doing whatever you're supposed to do, but there was no meaning to it.
He was teaching the psychologies and all.
Exactly.
Memories of your matches with Ric Flair.
I hate Ric Flair.
When you guys were feuding for the U.S. title.
Yeah. No, a lot of guys I've heard knock Ric Flair. 13 times world champion, or whatever it is he is. I don't know. Couldn't have gave it to me once, huh? Flair and I got along great. As a man, I think he's probably the greatest of all time, all around packaged. I used to watch him carry 2 suits, a coat, his bag, that looking, doesn't matter where he was. He was the epitome of what a champion should be. Working with them, this is, I think, why we were lucky enough to draw money is there's nothing about us alike. And in this wrestling, they don't ask anymore. Wrestling is all predetermined, etc. But they've missed a really important part. I'll just get to right here is, Rick and I may have known where we were going, but I was a ring general. He was a ring general. And I got there with 2 lefts and a right, and he got there with 2 rights and a left. The magic was trying to watch these 2 stupid guys pull each other towards wherever it is at. And Flair was such a giving guy, so confident that, he always liked to go a long time. I learned from Bobby Duncan, ooh, baby, midnight hour, 10-minute specialist. And that's what I became. But the matches were very intense, very solid, very there. And I'll just bring it right to this with Willie Anderson. And we're in Richmond, and boom, and there's up screaming, and we're doing 45 minutes, double bridging, and blah, blah. Here we are, and I come back, and everybody's, hey, fucking, hey, great. Hey, thanks, I sit down. Willie Anderson looks at me and says, oh, that was a shits. Huh? And that's when I learned how to draw money. Well, what are you going to do next week? 89 backdrops? And he roiled me. And something that Johnny Valentine had told me I'd stick with me. And he told me, would you please at least look like a fighter and get your feet on the ground? He says, because that ain't going to draw me a dime. And that for me was, it's like, the rain in Spain, I got it. And once I caught on to that, I think a lot of guys, really good guys, are in that. They just didn't have someone to go, you stupid dickhead. What are we going to do? You can't. And that's when I started drawing money, big money consistently. And that's what I got out of that.
For some people that don't know what you're talking about, what did you have to change, basically?
Today's, you might call it a very mild case of lucha libre, but things such as in those days, you throw a fella into the turnbuckle and he'll run 1-2, come across body block. A guy may catch him. You may be lucky enough to catch the leg and roll over and have that type of a pin. A lot of back and forth.
Just a lot of false finishes, basically.
A lot of false finishes, but a lot of high spots for no reason other than we need to do something. We like to hear them cheer.
Right.
And so that's what it was, and that's completely ass backwards.
Ric Flair, we always hear, he was
always
hear
good
the stories. Are they true? Was he, at the bars? Were you ever at the bar?
Oh, listen, Rick, this is no lie, y'all. Ric Flair was the most giving guy. How he wanted everybody to have a good time. He'd get the janitors drunk at the hotel bar. He would. We'd be at Days Inn, Roofs Inn, middle card, undercard guys, mid card guys, and the horsemen and the top guys all stayed at the Marriotts and Hyatts. Rick would tip the shuttle driver $20 and we would tip him too, like $5. Everybody tip him $5 to drive from that hotel, the Hyatt over here, not real far, to the Red Roof, the Days Inn, to pick us up to come party with him. He'd tip him $20 right there, or $100, wherever it's. He was like that. By the end of the night, when they got tips back, Rick could give him $100 to take us back. Wow. 20 at first. We'd all tip him $5 to get there. Tip him $5 back because we had a designated driver. And every time we used that, Rick would do it. He'd walk around with trays. Yeah, he'd walk around with trays of shooters. Right. We got to work with Butch Reed and and Ron Simmons a whole lot back then too, and a whole lot with them. But no, Rick would he tipped the shuttle driver $20 to come pick us up at the Red Roof. We'd tip him $5, be 8-10 of us. You know what I mean? Right. And then Rick would give the guy $100. He'd take us back the shuttle bus from the Marriott to the Days Inn, and he'd walk around with trays of shooters all night. He'd give to everybody. He'd get the waitresses drunk, the bartenders drunk, the bouncers drunk, the owner drunk, the damn janitor, the maids, everybody. I mean, he wanted everybody to have a good time. It's crazy, man. And he'd be in the gym the next morning doing the Stairmaster for an hour, and he'd do 1,000 squats. He'd do squats a day.
You hear a lot of stories that he would never sleep. Go right from the bar to the gym to the.
Most he'd sleep 2 to 4 hours. He'd sleep on air flights in the car.
Yeah. Did you ever get to work with Rick during the late 80s?
Only time I ever got to work with Rick was in a 6-man tag, and it was Rick, Arn, and Sid with what's that guy's name? I can't remember his name. Steve and I, and he had the long hair, did the Indian gimmick.
Chief Peter Nord? No, that was
no, it's for him. I can't remember his name. Good dude. Worked with him in a 6-man tag, and Sid was mad because they weren't really figuring him in on stuff. And he told us, he says, if we're around the ring, he goes, guys, watch me. He's real jacked, juiced up. He goes, watch me out there because I might get crazy. He was like, Sid, you're working with us. Don't worry about it. We worked with Sid a lot in there more, and Arn some. I worked with Flair a little bit in there, and he was great. You know, he was fantastic.
You talked about a lot.
Ric Flair would go to all the territories and go 60 minutes with the top baby face.
Right.
Every night, all over God's creation, and he'd go. And he didn't do that same match always. What you see, you ever see matches he had with Brad Armstrong that you just would with Barry Windham. Barry Windham. Yeah. If it was somebody that he was motivated to work with, he didn't do all. Sure, he did the same things, but he could do a lot more than what you saw.
How did you feel at this time? Now, Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes were pretty much in the main event picture for a while. Right. What were your feelings about Ric Flair as champion?
Worst champion I ever seen. Here's the thing. It's bad enough people know it's entertainment now, and they know it's a work. And then you keep giving the belt to this clown. You know, that tries to think that he's somebody, number one. You know, but here's a guy that's so wrapped up into himself that he doesn't care what he does to the business. He stopped drawing. That's why WCW started going downhill. Mid-Atlantic was disappeared because him and Dusty stopped drawing. Number one, when Rude left, and people don't realize, that started a big exodus going to WWF. You know, guys are going. Of course, I wanted to go to Japan. I wanted to get out of the United States. I was fed up with the wrestling in the United States. I want to go have fun, be as stiff as I want, shoot on people, have fun with it. Japanese don't care. If I beat you up, stiff cemento. Hey, you cemento? Yeah, I am. You know, but you know, these guys, till this day, this clown's still living and is going. He doesn't. You know, when you read a book, when my book comes out in January, okay, you're gonna enjoy the book because the book's not about Manny Fernandez. It's written by Manny Fernandez, but it's not about me. It's about the greatness about this profession. It's about the people that laid their backs on the thing to make me. It's about the people that guided me in this business. It's about Eddie Grahams. It's about the Terry Funks, the Dickie Murdochs of the world. Those real people that believe that this business makes you. You don't make it. And these idiots think they made the business. J.J. Dillon's book, it sounds like he saved pro wrestling. If it wasn't for pro wrestling, J.J. Dillon, oh my God, it'd be gone. It'd be gone. Ric Flair is all about him and his tower power, you know, whatever he's all about. Except getting beat up by a 20-year-old kid. Here's a guy that's been in the business 40 years of his life. He should have learned to fight instead of smacking ass all the time. You know, you get beat up by a 20-year-old kid, that's pretty shameful. You can't cheat. Judge, you've been cheating for 30 years in the business. and you can't cheat on a 20-year-old, that's pretty lame.
Ric Flair, memories of Rick. He came back to the company when you were leaving. I know
Yeah. Rick's an odd situation because being a legend, and I know how much respect him and my dad have, and the Harley races and the legends. Ric Flair, personally, he's just the opposite of Dusty and all the other person. Like Dusty, come here, let's talk. You and Dustin, let's talk. Rick would look at me and look at me like F off. But if I came and talked to him, hey kid, how you doing? So he was always in his character. That's cool.
Arn was an agent. He used to, Arn always gave me the greatest, most respect. Whenever we were going to finishes, he'd ask me my opinion. I'd always ask him because I knew he could make finishes real exciting. I think him and Ric Flair may be some of the best finish men in the business. Coming up with the little bitty things that don't sound like that much, but man, it turned out to really make the whole match. I can give you one, for example, when me and Flair was working against Piper and Hogan.
Okay.
And I forget how it went, but the finish went for a cover on Hogan and Piper won, and Hogan was going to cover Flair. I was coming to whack him, pull him over, and let Flair do it, then kick out, then finally catch the fall. All Rick added to that was a chair shot, and then it made the whole finish. I mean, it went from blah to wow, And I just, when you sit back and you think you know a little bit about the business, you go, man, that one of the things not gonna make that big of a difference, but man, it did.
Wow,
it really did.
Wow. Now, being back in WCW for the first time in many years, how did things change in WCW since the last time you were there?
Really not at all.
Wow.
Then it got to be a bigger production. Everything was on a bigger scale. Our vignettes, our little things like, I'll give you an example. When that time me and Randy Savage was trying to get Gorgeous George away from Kevin Nash.
Okay.
Man, it looked like a small, not a small movie set. It looked like a movie set. They had all the,
right.
I mean, that's something that they really was doing really a lot of really big high production things.
Wow. Now, you and Arn squashed everything. Did you sense any heat from maybe some of Arn's friends that didn't want you back?
Not want me back in WCW. Now, when it first happened, there was a lot of people that didn't want me back there because of what happened.
Right.
But after the time had gone by, those people have forgotten it. I can't think of anyone.
Okay.
Now, I only can go by what I've heard. I've heard Ric Flair said some bad things about me, I guess because they just did this horseman.
We're going to talk about that,
okay,
yeah.
Well, we'll talk about it when it gets there.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to get your thoughts on that. Arn Anderson, on his comments on you, he said you did great interviews. He said you were very powerful, but you weren't a team player. How do you respond to that?
This is what happened there, and this is why they're all saying I'm not team players. No, they asked me to do that video or that DVD.
Okay.
The Horseman deal. Well, as a matter of fact, I've been trying to negotiate a new deal with these folks.
Okay.
And I told them straight up that I've got plans, and if I do get to come back, I don't want to water myself down with something I really had nothing to do with the Horseman.
Right.
And if I do come back, I don't want them to see that first. I want them to see me and maybe a new character.
Right.
I might be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you've been out of the spotlight.
Right. I could do a different character.
Exactly.
And I've got a really good idea for one. So that's the only reason I think him and Flair had a couple bad things to say about me about not being a team player, because I wasn't interested in doing the Horseman thing. And that's something that you got to realize that means a lot to them, because they really was the foundation of that.
Yeah.
I was honored to be a part of it, but I never felt like that was my career.
Yeah. And Ric Flair was very harsh on you, and he called you an embarrassment and said, he's an embarrassment. I want to make sure that you keep this on the DVD.
You know what? I have to say, Rick, face to face has always been good to me. Okay. All right. Saying that, first when I hear that, it sounds like a little disappointment from him, because they're saying, now they could have twisted it to him, Arn, this different way. Well, Sid just now, we begged him and we told him we'd pay him. He just didn't want to have nothing to do with this thing and blah, blah, blah. It sounds like a little bit of someone, their feelings were hurt there.
Sure.
Now, being a disappointment or embarrassment to this business.
That's his quote, an embarrassment.
Okay, let's just say this. Who really is the bigger embarrassment in this business? And that's all I'll say. You know, is it someone who, like me, has only had really only one, you know, thing over my head that was really not my fault, or him who's had a cast of stupid things he's done his whole life. But on top of it, on the other side of it, he's a great entertainer, you know, for what he is. But for him to, you know, have been that jealous, it could have been a lot of things. You know, I don't mind saying this. In this business, since I've been in it, I've outdone Ric Flair 100 to 1 in drawing money. And that's what that's what the name of the game is. I've been main event where he had been really main event for a long time. I was main event 90% of my career. You know, so maybe more than that. And when I wasn't main event, they put me in the main event anyway because Ric Flair and those people couldn't follow me. So if there were anything, it sounded like to me someone's feelings were hurt.
Just had a conversation with Paul Orndorff the other day, and his opinion is that Flair got the push that he had because he was a good politicker and kissed a lot of rear ends. Do you agree with him?
I'll say a little bit, probably so, but then you got to realize Ric Flair was, after Harley Race, he was one of the last real world champions. He went from territory to territory working as a world champion, working hour matches every night. I just think he was in a good place at a good time, and then his name and character and persona just followed him. And I think still follows him today. I definitely don't think he's in the business today because of being an ass kisser. I think he's in there because of his ability to work.
What are your memories about Ric Flair from WCW? Did you get any interaction with him at all, or?
Yeah, I've actually worked with him a couple times in TV matches and stuff and everything. And right here is my only thing. I think he worked hard and I mean, everybody knows how much charisma and everything he had. But as far as being a world champion, I mean, Rob, if you was him and you went out and had the same match with me and 60 other guys, I mean, would that mean you was a great worker? I mean, look, when I was growing up in the Mid-South Coliseum watching them bring in Nick Bockwinkel, who I loved, when they would say Nick Bockwinkel against Lawler or Dundee or my dad or somebody, I think, man. Or when they would say Harley Race versus one of the guys, or they would say Terry Funk versus one of the guys, I would think, man, we're really fixing to see something here. And it's like I said, it's no disrespect intent, but when you have the same match with the same guys and the same commentators say, hold on, Rick, don't do this. You know what's fixing to happen. What does that tell you? You're having the same match night after night after night. I mean, it's not that you're, and I mean, I don't mean that, but Flair was always for himself. That's kind of what, if I dislike something about him, what I didn't like, he wasn't, some of the guys come up to me and say, oh, Flair's for the guys, he's for the guys. No, don't never believe that. Flair was for Flair.
Everybody says that too.
And it was a power struggle. And this was a funny thing when you was a young kid getting in the business, watching it between him and Dusty, because Jim Crockett wanted to make sure Dusty was happy, but he wanted to make sure Flair was happy, or he wouldn't have paid $1 million to the IRS for Flair to get him out of. So he was trying to keep them both. But see, that trying to keep everybody happy and paying is what wound up getting him to be the dumbest cocksucker, I think, out of all of them and everything. But no, Flair was never for the boys. That was his whole thing. He would tell all the guys he was, though, I'm for y'all guys, I'm going to do this, and God bless you. But remember this, anybody that tells you God bless you all the time, you need to just maybe stay away from them, because that's not what they mean.
Now, when Ric Flair came into the company, how did the boys view him in the WWF? And also, I heard, Bret Hart says a lot of the guys weren't too impressed by Rick when he first came in.
Well, see, I was not, my dressing room is separate from those guys.
Right.
So I don't dress with them. So therefore, I didn't hear a lot of their shop talk. If they said anything, I mean, a few guys were threatened. This is Ric Flair coming in, of course they're going to be threatened. Who wouldn't be? But at the same time, I think they were all professional. And Flair was there for a long time, he went with the angle with Savage and Elizabeth, and I think Vince did with him what he wanted to do, and Flair, stayed as long as he wanted to stay, and then went right back to Atlanta.
What were your thoughts on Rick?
His home. I love Rick. Rick's amazing. Ric Flair. Ric Flair's timeless.
Any good stories?
Yeah. Ric Flair. Well, I know one I can't tell you, but I got one I will tell you. When I was fortunate enough to see him in just that robe, it was quite entertaining. It was very entertaining. There is not another man on this earth like Ric Flair, and I say that with the utmost respect. I do. He's just wonderful.
What was your story? You're gonna
Okay, my story was when we had gotten into a town, and I was still working with Ted at the time. I was doing the Fifi outfit,
right.
With short outfits and all that. But I had walked right by the where they had set the barricades and stuff. They had them all set up right there, and it was real tight with the wall. Well, I had my back to it, and I went right past a fire extinguisher, and it fell, and I was lucky it didn't get my tendon there, but I got a real nice mark on my leg. But I went over there after the fire extinguisher fell on me and started yelling, blood started going on my leg. They sent me to the hospital. Well, Flair, I had rented a car, so obviously it was apparent that I couldn't drive, and so we turned the car in, and Flair drove me to the town and everything that night. And then he said, "Sherri, you ought to take some time off, let that heal." Well, I took 2 weeks off, and then I later heard him say, "Damn, I didn't tell her to take that long off." So it was just amazing. And I had the best time with Flair, because one night is right before I was fixing to get my divorce from my third husband. And it's, boy, I'm really telling trash now. But we were all at this bar after a show that they had in Huntsville. It seems like everything happens in Huntsville. But we were all at the bar that night drinking cocktails, and I was over there playing pool. And so there was this guy over there, he's just running his mouth. So Flair walks up to the guy and he says, "I got $100 bills that says Sherri Martel can beat your ass on the pool table."
Huh.
And I looked at him, and then I looked at the guy.
Is this is WWF days?
Huh?
This is WWF days?
No. This is after.
Okay.
This is after.
Oh, WCW. Okay.
This is before WCW.
Okay.
Before I even went there. But so the guy took the bet. And needless to say, I got a little bit too cocky because I thought, Ric Flair's backing me up. However, being Ric Flair's friend and him betting $100, didn't have anything with my ability to beat this guy playing pool. But needless to say, I lost because I shot the 8-ball in. And I lost $100. And so I tried to give it back to him. He wouldn't take it.
What are your memories of your matches with Ric Flair at the Royal Albert Hall?
Ric Flair, Ric Flair was Ric Flair. He was one of the top heels, in the country. He's a good worker.
Did you like working with him?
Yes, I did. I didn't like, I don't like to work with anybody that gives you a bunch of chops, because all of a sudden, the first chop, there's meaning to it, and all of a sudden, then they don't mean anything. One of the things that I didn't, the first time that I worked for him, because I always heard what a great worker he was. The first time I slammed him from the top rope, and he beat me up. I said, "Boy, that bump really meant something." I kind of changed a little opinion on how I thought about his work.
Mike Graham comes in the dressing rooms. Nobody in there but Savage, myself, my brother, and Steen. Mike Graham comes in and gives the finishes and stuff like that. He gives us a finish that's so long, nobody can remember it. And he's doing it on purpose. But we know it's not him doing it, it's Ric Flair. Okay, me and my brother already know they want us to fail. They done tried it a few times, it triples up, but we always get by. We always get by. It was kind of funny how they do stuff like that, and we like, okay, here come another hurdle, But we had people in our corner, like Paul Orndorff, even Mike Graham. This wasn't him being malicious. We knew it was coming from somewhere else. Arn Anderson. They were all in our corner. Mike Graham leaves the dressing room. And you can see it on his face, like, he didn't. You know what I'm saying? That's
right.
But you know, he got a job to do. Nobody held him. You know, nobody looked at him like he's trying to be malicious or anything like that. Because we knew it wasn't Mike. Mike ain't that kind of person. But anyway, as soon as he walks out the fucking door, Randy Savage goes into a John Tenta type rap. This is no lie. This is honest to God truth. And I remember Sting saying, "Hey guys, I just want to let you guys know, I ain't got nothing to do with this." You know what I'm saying? He in the match. Sting go, "I just want to let y'all know, brother, I ain't got nothing to do with this." You know, Randy Savage, "Motherfucker, I kick his motherfucker. Who the fuck he think he fucking with? He trying to fuck my fucking career up. God damn it." And we like, me and my brother just sitting back. Because they,
So is this how you found out it was Flair who was behind it?
yeah, because I heard,
okay.
well, he was a booker at that time.
Oh,
Who
okay.
else?
Okay, all right.
You know what I'm saying? So, didn't take a genius to figure that out, you know. But the thing is, at the time, we didn't know him and Savage had heat.
Mm-hmm.
Not until Savage goes into this rant, you know. And man, this fucking dude was mad. It was a miniature version of John Tenta, you know. I forgot all about this until we just started talking about this. And I was like, holy shit. Because you remember at that time, Randy Savage's finish was when he go to the top rope and he comes off with his elbow.
Right, yeah. The elbow drop.
Well, Mike Graham had implemented all that, and my brother's supposed to kick out.
To kill his finish.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's mad, brother. He's fucking upset. "Motherfucker, you trying to kill my fucking gimmick? Motherfucker, I'll kick his ass." I'm like, damn. I said, "Dawg, calm down, bro." I said, "Calm down, man. We ain't got to do that." And Savage looked at us and like, "Hey, man, y'all don't, you know, because you don't do what you've been told, you know, you get reprimanded." I'm like, "No, man, we got to do that shit, man." I said, "Because they trying to fuck with us, too." I said, "What the fuck they going to do, fire us?" They going to fire us anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we didn't fucking give a shit no more.
Right.
You know? So I said, no. I said, come off the top rope with your double sledgehammer, hit my brother in the head, and I'll make a save. Then it calmed him down. He was like, "Really, man? You don't care?" I said, "No, man, we don't fucking give a shit. What the fuck?" So, and Sting was like, "Brother, I don't know how y'all gonna." I said, "Dawg, we'll do what we do." So me and my brother looked at us. I said, "Man, you just remember one half, and I remember the other half." You know what I'm saying? And we kind of put it together. And I mean, it was a bunch of dumb shit he put in there. You crawl over here and you grab his leg. That kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? And stuff just didn't even make sense, but he put it in anyway. So we go. And we went out there and nailed every fucking thing that he put in that fucking match. Yes. Went in that,
And still protected Savage's finish.
And still protected his finish.
Yeah.
And then the match goes off. You know, the match, you know, I can't remember. I think somebody else hit the ring and it became a disqualification or some shit like that. And I remember Paul Orndorff coming back through the curtain and doing like this and giving us the thumbs up. Then when we got back in the dressing room, Mike Graham stuck his head in and gave us the thumbs up. This happened. And after that, Hogan came in and Flair was out. And Hogan came in and they told him he came in and evaluated talent. And Hogan told us this. He was like, "Man, that's your best tag team. Why aren't you giving them a push?" That's when the Harlem Heat thing took off.
Wow. That was the genesis of it, that whole deal right there.
Right.
They tried to fuck you guys. You unfucked it up and fucked them.
No, we didn't fuck anybody.
No, but I'm saying like the entire.
Oh, no. You're talking about the match.
Yeah.
Yeah. We reversed everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, we reversed everything. You know, so. But the thing was, I don't know if Rick knew what the finish was. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't. But then again, nobody came up to us and go, "Hey, man, we told y'all to do this and y'all didn't do that." Nobody ever said that, so we don't know what happened.
Right.
Maybe they overlooked it, or maybe he thought Mike Graham came in and didn't tell us that. I don't know. We never discussed it. We never had a conversation with anything about it. But that happened.
Wow.
And I just remember Randy Savage wanting to beat the shit out of fucking Ric Flair. And I'm like, man, that's unnecessary. You know what I'm saying? What the fuck you gonna beat him up for? Over a fucking finish? You know what I'm saying? I was like, golly, man. I mean, he was upset. I forgot about that. That was a similar John Tenta type thing, man.
As far as the team with you and Bam Bam, was there ever any attempt by WCW or WWF to bring the two of you together to either one and, you know...
No, Batman probably had a little friction there with Vince at that point, and so that might have prohibited us going that way. And as far as the WCW goes, if Ric Flair had anything to do with booking, it was too good, so he wouldn't want it.
Yeah.
You know, if it was too good, it might interfere with, it might dull his star a little bit, and he wouldn't want it.
It's funny because Bam Bam said something similar about Rick during his...
Why wouldn't WCW bring that back in? We were selling out, and we were doing 30-minute matches, and we could have. They might have said, "Well, we had no one to wrestle either compared with the big 400-pounder."
Yeah.
The Japs did. I mean, they were smaller than the Americans. So it was just. I remember, a similar situation. Stone Cold Austin and myself, we wrestled. And I asked for Stone Cold. I was currently the world champion for the WCW. And I asked for Stone Cold. I said, I think me and him can, have one heck of a tag match. And why don't you book Arn and Rick were supposedly, the greatest tag team of all time, right?
Yeah.
And me and Stone Cold for a half hour, we not only beat the hell out of them for a half hour, but we out wrestled them.
Yeah.
We flat out showed them, and I was excited for Steve because at the time, he was not being pushed or used properly. I was excited for Steve, and I was excited for myself because I wanted to do some tag matches.
Yeah.
I know I would use primarily as a singles guy, but to go on the road and get a partner, give you a little longevity and keep the bumps and bruises down a little bit, and. It was so good that Flair had the power, he buried it.
Wow.
And I think that might have been the same thing with Bob. With Damon.
Wow. It's kind of funny because the last shoot interview that we did was Terry Funk, who doesn't really have a bad word to say about much of anybody. But about Ric Flair, he said pretty much the same thing. And, when talking about his run in '89 with him, and I guess. Since you don't work for the company, I don't know how much you would know about it, but do you think it's maybe, if not poetic justice, but just karma, how the same thing is happening to him over there, how his programs are getting hot, but then you have Hogan vetoing everything because it's running into...
I don't know, they say you reap what you sow, and, the big wheel will just keep rolling, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And trick is to not let it roll back onto you, and I can see that happening. That wheel's rolling right over him. Hogan is vetoing everything, and as Rick did for what, a decade.
Yeah.
He vetoed anything that looked good at all.
Yeah.
Anything that would compete with him. Reigns with Dusty, and the one-time U.S. champion reign with Dusty, and then. Here you go again, Erik. Let's face it, Flair was up doing jobs for Vince.
Yeah.
And I was the world champion. And Dusty came to me and said, Leon, I'd like for you to do it, but, if I was you, I don't know if I would do it. The job I did, but it's Super Brawl.
Starrcade '93, maybe?
Starrcade
in
Charlotte.
Yeah.
And Erik wanted me to do it, to get Flair a big comeback. And Dusty, and I said, well, he's getting old, and he's been up there doing jobs, and and I knew Hulk was coming in. And I said, I really wanted to decide on when Hulk came in.
Yeah.
I thought Vader or Hogan would draw more money at that time. Dusty basically told me that we'd have the match. You put Flair over. Which was a great match and
incredible. It was maybe one of Flair's best in the last
X many
It
years.
was a great match, and he earned that belt because it was a stiff match, and he earned it. And the deal was, Dusty right after the match said, "Man, that was an incredible match," and we got Flair back. We got Flair back on top, and he's hot again, which the company can use. But we're gonna have before Hogan gets back in, you'll get the belt again in a cage match called the Revenge of Vader.
Yeah.
And it was 3 days before the match. Flair took Dusty's job. And
You knew
once
that
again,
wasn't coming,
Flair
yeah.
strikes. And then all of a sudden, I don't take the belt, and and Flair might have been his own worst enemy at that point because first thing he did was 4 jobs in a row for Hogan.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, of all the matches I had with Hogan, I never did a clean 1, 2, 3 for him.
Right.
And but I think had I been the champion when Hogan came in, I would have had a little more say, in what was going on and how things would have been done. But again,
yeah,
Flair's got 9 lives, but I think he's kind of running out.
What are your memories back then around this time of Ric Flair?
Don't like him.
Don't like him?
Don't like him.
Why?
I don't care if he knows it or not. I hope he does know it. I don't like him. He's a backstabber.
Mm.
He was the booker in Atlanta when me and Sid were together, and he buried us. And makes promises and tells you, "Hey, brother," and then as soon as you turn around, he sticks you in the back with a big butcher knife. He's a lying, two-faced dog.
Mm.
And that's a shoot.
You think they'll let him go with all the problems? I mean, it seems, from all the rumors anyway, it seems like they let Ric Flair go because of all the problems. At least that's the buzz anyway, is that he's gone at this point. You think they'll let him go, or?
Who knows? Bischoff is so well. They're from what I understand, they're buddies.
Yeah.
And here they have the influence that they had in WWF with Vince. They're having it there with Bischoff.
Yeah.
But Hogan comes into.
That's what I was gonna say. Hogan's there too.
Hogan's into the mix, so that's where the heat is. And then you got Sullivan's too clicky. You got to click here, click there, click there. Everywhere, click. Old McDonald. And it's just not bad. It's not good. It's bad to segregate the guys.
Yeah.
You got your whites, your blacks, your Hispanic, your Puerto Ricans.
Yeah.
It's a bad scene, man. Why can't we all just get along?
Just seems terrible. Just looking at their company now, the way they're treating Ric Flair. A guy that basically built their company, and then they have all these guys come in and they just basically kick him out. Come eyes down, but
Flair. Flair just needs to stop doing the turnbuckle over the top, going off the top rope, and he just needs to change up his repertoire.
Yeah.
Because it's just old news. But you know what? Rick had his run. He made big money. His problem was he was pulling his pants down in the bar too many times.
Yeah.
Showing everybody his penis and all that.
I've seen it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, come on, Rick.
Yeah.
You got a wife. You're supposed to be, big image. Party's fine, but grow the fuck up.
Yeah. That's why I'm running around with a sock over his penis, calling himself the Masked Marauder. That's all happy.
Best time is when the hooker friggin' Mickey'd his drink and took his Rolex and all his money. He had to go back buy the identical Rolex, so his wife wouldn't know.
So I got screwed twice, more or less.
Got screwed twice, But in this business, Flair.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just seen a guy act really foolish, and I never had respect for him out of all the old timers. It was like,
yeah,
what the hell with you? You're no big deal.
Do you think Rick could ever be, a successful politician in North Carolina?
No.
No?
Because he came to me.
Really?
Him and Oakland came to me when I was governor. And Rick was going to run for governor of North Carolina. And I said to Rick, well, Rick, the only thing I can tell you is this game is much more harsh and much dirtier than wrestling ever was. And I said, if you have any skeletons in the closet, I said, you better expose them beforehand. Because I said, if they find out after, you're dead. And Rick admitted to me some astronomical number. He said, well, I've had like 143 speeding tickets. I looked at him and said, you can't be governor. You can't run. They'll kill you.
Right.
I said, that's total disregard for the law. And as governor, you're the head law enforcement officer of the state. I said, you can't run, Rick. And he believed me and he didn't do it. But when I heard he had this astronomical amount of speeding tickets, and that's all on the record, I thought your political opponent will kill you with that. I said, you can't run like that. You have to blame your past for it. You can't have, the thing I've learned about politics is expose your skeletons before you run, then they're not an issue. But in the case of something like that, you can't run from that.
Shortly after the TV tapings were announced, it was also announced that Ric Flair was coming in.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts when you heard Rick was coming in?
I was psyched, man.
Yeah.
Wanted to meet Ric Flair. He came into St. Louis for the first time, and he was nice. He was very nice. He was open to talking to the guys, and he watched the matches, and he did this promo with Sweeney that's online now, and I don't know why, but it had never been put online until recently. And that promo was awesome, and to me it was very positive to have him there. Till a couple months later when I guess he started being a dick to people.
Your style is pretty different from vintage Ric Flair style. Did you guys ever have any discussions about your matches?
No. He actually told Generico and I he dug our stuff. That's about it.
Did you feel like he was being genuine when he told you guys? You or other guys? Did you feel like he was just...
No.
You don't think he was being genuine?
No.
He just was going through the motions, kind of?
Yeah, I think he does that for everybody, maybe. From what I've seen. He's on all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like he's
like I've seen him
character,
I've seen him tell Carrie, like he was really mad at Carrie about something once, and I saw him berate Carrie backstage, and then his music hit because it was time for his promo. And he's like, "Okay, you motherfucker, and now I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna put you over." And he got in the ring. He's like, "Want to thank Carrie Silkin," and like it was, you know what I mean? It's just like after seeing that and that shows to me like, oh fuck, you don't know what's genuine with that dude. But I think that's just years of fucking being Ric Flair, you know?
Were you guys surprised when you heard that he was blowing off the rest of the deal and disappeared, basically?
I don't even know what really happened.
Yeah.
Like, I always stayed out of it. I remember this. He was supposed to be a referee in New York for one of the matches and decided he didn't want to do it. So he left before the show ended or something. People were really mad at him. Then a couple weeks later, he was in Detroit for Ring of Honor again, and everybody's like, "No, fuck Ric Flair, man," you know, after what he did. But I was like, I don't know, man. Then I remember he went to do that promo, and then he came to the back, and everybody's watching the monitor, and everybody was sitting on chairs, and he didn't have a chair. And I remember nobody was paying attention to him at that point. Like, the aura of Ric Flair was gone. You know, nobody gave a fuck about him. And he was looking around and trying to find a place to sit. And I saw him do that, and I stood up. And I'm like, "Here, Mr. Flair, have my chair." Because he's still Ric Flair.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Hey, to you, it's Rick." And he shook my hand. He's like, "Thank you." I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." And all he wanted was a fucking chair.
Right.
And he sat down, and that's it. And to me, he was always very nice. Like, he came in Toronto, and my wife took a picture with him, and he was, like, very nice to her. And, you know, like, I don't know. I've heard a lot of negatives about him, and I've heard about him acting up, or acting out, I should say. But, I don't know. To me, seems like a nice guy. Everybody's got their moments, though, you know, so I don't know.
Did you like working with Ric Flair? I thought working with Ric Flair would do nothing but good things for me. At the time, I'd come back as myself, and I was just had turned into a X Division babyface, and the idea was to turn me heel and put me with Rick, and eventually the group that Rick was going to form that was going to be the new Four Horsemen. I was thrilled. I was like, man, this is gonna do wonders for me, just in terms of listening to Rick. And talk about a guy that's been there and done that, man. What an opportunity this is, and this wasn't going to be wasted. Just from in-ring stuff to promos and everything, so I enjoyed it, man. Like, who's not going to like? It's like, wow, I'm going to be, one of the new Four Horsemen. I'm going to be in Fortune. This is going to be cool. This could be something good. And the guys I was doing it with were also very talented. And I was like, when this first started, we first started hearing rumors about this or rumblings, and we were thinking about doing this. We're like, this could be good, man. Like, people could say it's just rehashed stuff, but with the four individuals we had in there, and Ric Flair, this could be good.
Any good Flair stories around this period of time? Bar stories?
Well, Rick's Rick. Oftentimes a lot of us would stay at the DoubleTree bar, and so every once in a while, I'm not a big drinker, but I'll throw a couple back, have a few cold beverages. So I'd go down there, and Rick would be in there, and he'd be drinking wine and just having a good time, and so I would sit there, and sometimes Storm would be there, and sometimes Bobby, maybe never AJ, to have a couple beverages, and just Rick would start telling stories, and who doesn't want to participate in story time with Rick? If you're a pro wrestling fan, which I am a huge one, who doesn't want to sit and listen to Ric Flair bullshit about the old days and tell stories of them doing horrible ribs to guys that they thought were hysterical, but were basically attempted murder and stuff. But yeah, I remember one time when we were down there and Rick's paying for beverages, and we're having a great time drinking red wine with them, and he's talking about Harley Race and just telling these war stories, and I'm just like a little kid, man, just like, this is so cool. And he's putting over Harley Race, and Harley was the best. You ever wrestle Harley Race? And I'm just like, no, never, never in the same territory, brother. Never, And he goes, Harley's great. I'm gonna call Harley, and it's 1 a.m. in Orlando. Ring. The guy's not answering. I'm like, he's probably asleep. There's a good chance he's sleeping. It's And then we're just talking some more, and he's talking about Jim Ross. And he's putting over Jim Ross and telling me Jim Ross stories. And again, I'm loving it because it's like, this is awesome, man. And he goes, I'm gonna call Jim. And so he calls Jim. And he goes, JR, Nature Boy, how you doing? Well, what's wrong, brother? You don't sound like yourself. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, probably because you just woke him from an absolute slumber. He probably thinks something's wrong. You called him, it's like at least midnight or 1 o'clock in Oklahoma, and he's like, oh, how'd you go, brother? I'll talk to you tomorrow. And he's just like, oh, it's like, why? Wow, he just called Jim and Harley, but literally just to shoot the shit because, right. So yeah, I mean, a lot of those type of stories, and he was fun, man. He was a fun guy to hang around. He was, it was, everybody says about Ric Flair, what you see is what you get, and I got to experience that firsthand, and I learned a great deal from him, and I just saw him a few weeks ago, and I love Ric Flair, man.
Why do you think the Fortune gimmick did not have longevity?
I don't know, man. I don't think it was any fault of the performers involved. I think it was a creative decision. I think they wanted to ultimately split up Bobby and James from the group. But I think that, if done differently, I think Fortune could have been a really cool thing, when you consider that James Storm, Bobby Roode, AJ Styles, myself, and later Christopher Daniels were in the group. I think that's those names speak for themselves. As heels, it was cool when we turned babyface. I thought it might lose something, but it actually gained. We became, immediate, really strong baby faces as characters. The group was cool. I think it added a cool factor to the show when you have AJ, Chris, Bobby James, myself, feuding with the ECW guys, not even the ECW guys, but feuding with the Immortal guys. And I don't know, man. I thought I had more legs. I thought, perhaps money was left on the table in that situation, but I guess they needed to get to ultimately where they wanted to get to with Bobby and James. So that probably factored into it.
Getting back to Ric Flair coming into the company, where you became his protege, did you want to be the new Nature Boy?
No. I did not want to be the new Nature Boy. I want to be AJ Styles being mentored by Ric Flair. Did
you voice your opinion?
I did.
To Dixie or to Bischoff?
To Bischoff. They asked me if I wanted to be with Ric Flair. Sure, absolutely I want to be with Ric Flair. He's a huge star. Why would I not want to be with him? But when they said, we want you to dye your hair blonde, I was like, wait a minute. I'm not Ric Flair. I'm actually AJ Styles. So I kind of met him in the middle and did highlights in my hair,
right.
Blonde highlights, and then they talked about a robe, and I put my hood on the robe, which made it a little bit different. I think I just want to be AJ Styles being mentored by Ric Flair.
Now, when you're having these kind of discussions, do you ever get to talk to Dixie, or is that crossing the line, or do you stay with Bischoff? And
No. I've always had the ability to talk to Dixie, but I don't think that she kind of throws it and puts it in their court. Like, well, maybe go talk to Erik, rather than saying this is what's going to happen. She's never been about changing. If somebody's got the position that they have and creative, then that's their position, not hers.
What were your expectations of Flair's talent and I guess as person when he came in, and were they met?
It was cool having Ric Flair there. I mean, he's Ric Flair, so it was fun having him around, and the things that we did as far as Fortune was brilliant. It could have been better, but but what the little things that we did was very entertaining.